Hello everyone, you are watching StudyIQ IAS English. I'm Rahul. I welcome you all. Today I have a very special guest with me, our Praveen sir. Praveen sir, very warm welcome to you.
Thank you, sir.
And today we'll be debating on a very hot topic, that is the three language row. So sir, let's get started. Sir, all the noise that is being done in the media, that is there on the social media, what is the historical context related to this?
Sir, historical context is very much interesting as well as it is like type of a suspense, thrilled, and everything. See, sir, India has always been a nation with absolute diversity, and the diversity of this nation is the most unique thing on this planet as well. So it started actually with regard to the event that we should mark for the first thing here. That is when Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel started roaming throughout the princely states and unite India and create a unified India, united India, integrated India. So with regard to the two-nation theory of the Indian Independence Act gifted by Lord Mountbatten, well, I do not prefer taking the word lords with those people, but still, this is what the context is. So at that time, majority of the princely states, they were reluctant and they were also hesitant that that my particular location, my particular culture or tradition doesn't suits with the other belts, like for example the Himalayan belt, the northwestern belt, and the northeastern belt, or the simply the northern plateaus as well. So this reluctancy was something which was the biggest hurdle or the biggest trouble as well in front of the whole of the Constituent Assembly, along with the champion of the unity of the nation, that is Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel. Though with regard to the states of Travancore, and apart from that, the areas of Madras as well as the Telangana, the raise of the voices with regard to the identification of the language as a proper medium of communication started at the time period of 1915, when the world and the nation, specifically talking about the country of India, was diverted a lot with the Gandhi movement. With regard to the Champaran, Ahmedabad, and Kheda, these were the events which are highlighted in the textbooks of the history. But yes, there have been another events as well which are nowhere mentioned in the history books, not even just in the Indian history books, not even also the books that are written by some foreign nationalists. So what happened at that time? The British government established an organization. It was named as CAB, Central Advisory Board on Education, in 1920 specifically, which was just 3 years later, it was discontinued in 1923, watching about the events of Chauri Chaura and the establishment of the further extremist organizations in India. So, but they, in the very next decade, that is by 1935, they realized that yes, because of education, there could be another uproar inside India. Just before the enactment of the Government of India Act, the British government came back again with the Central Advisory Board of Education, in short CAB. And since 1935, that CAB is still presently also it is running. And next comes the time period of 1947-48.
So sir, before you proceed further, I would just want to ask you, like the education policy that the Britishers follows prior to 1947, with respect to the language, was what is? Means, did they try to trap us using the subject of education, using the subject of language, or did they try to simplify it for us? What was their positioning?
Well, sir, the answer I would like to quote here in two different segments. The first segment is with regard to their policies in the 19th century. That is when, after the regulating acts of 1773 and the Charter Acts and so on, during the time period of Lord Dalhousie, when he was the Governor General. So at that time, actually Wood's Dispatch, it came to India, which implemented the use of English language into the Indian education system. Because of this Wood's Dispatch, an impetus was given to the education system. And the word impetus I'm talking here is because earlier, the education in India was imparted in just one single language, that was Sanskrit.
Okay.
Yeah. And Sanskrit was a language which was only authorized to be used by the upper caste Hindus. So what was happening with the caste Hindus, that is the lower caste specifically, they were debarred from any sort of education. So when this Wood's Dispatch came to India, it was a very wonderful event, specifically for the sake of education system in the country. So Wood's Dispatch converted the use of Sanskrit as well as other native languages to English. And this was a good thing. It boosted it a lot. And next, during the time period of 1880s, specifically during the rule, I guess Governor General was Lord Ripon, another commission was established in India that was known as Hunter Commission. And this Hunter Commission was focusing specifically on two things. First was, yes, the use of English language as a medium of education, and apart from that, the upgraded education system, or the upgraded subjects. Why? Because so far before the 1880s or till the 19th century, we can simply state, the education in India meant only the religious things. That is, are you having the information about the historical events of religion, the religious texts, the manuscripts, and so on. That was actually the system of education was. There was no such mentioning specifically with the subjects of science or mathematics and so on. And this is what the reason also came that glorification of Europe or the glorification of the West was done at its best. You might have also encountered many of the reels over your social media handles or YouTube as well, that gravity was first invented by some Indian scholar, or this aeroplanes, okay, that is the flying planes, they were invented by some Indian engineer, or many of the things are there that are claimed by many YouTubers and the influencers in their videos. Though majority of them, I will say they are right as well.
Otherwise also, like for example, just take the lexicon, how it is used, like for I think Alexander of India, they
exactly like Napoleon of India.
Napoleon of
It is
India, sorry,
it is Samudragupta.
Samudragupta.
Samudragupta and Napoleon, there is a gap of around 1000 years. Okay.
And then Kalidas as Shakespeare
of India, like Kalidas and Shakespeare also thousands of years of gap in between. Okay, so this is what the problem is. The glorification of the West was done. The only reason was that in India, education, that is the education of science, mathematics, or political science even, was not given much importance. And one more thing that should be added here is with regard to the development of the subject or the discipline of political science. Like when I am reading the subject of political science, in fact polity and ethics, I do have to read majority of the thinkers. So the glorified thinkers, who are they? They are Plato, they are Aristotle, they are Jean-Jacques Rousseau, it is Epicurus, right? It is Hannah Arendt, or maybe what we named it as Karl Marx, right? So there are n number of glorified political philosophers whose philosophy, if you see, the very first ever greatest political philosophers when it comes to the Indian subcontinent is Kautilya. Popularly we call him as Chanakya. From Chanakya, the very next political philosopher, even if I'll ask you this question, then also you won't be able to answer, because there is no second political philosopher for continuous centuries.
Okay.
Like from, even if you go ahead with the UPSC syllabus for ethics and the other PSI optionals, then you will see that there is a name, Kautilya's Arthashastra. Not even whole of Kautilya, that is not even whole of Chanakya. Kautilya's Arthashastra is mentioned. Then the next thinkers that comes into the picture in India is Swami Vivekananda. Now understand, thousands of years of gap once again. From Kautilya to Swami Vivekananda, and then to Sir Syed Ahmad Khan, Manvendra Nath Roy, and then Jawaharlal Nehru is also considered as one of the greatest political philosophers. So why this big gap? The gap just because of the dark ages of the nation, where language was the first roadblock or the first hurdle for the lower caste Hindus, and secondly, even the people, those who were gaining education, the education was also just focusing on the religious purposes only. So this was the first evil. So Wood's Dispatch and Hunter Commission, they just worked on a very wonderful note to let Indians understand the actual education thing. Though I'm not trying to glorify them, but yes, the good acts must be appreciated. And next comes the second segment of the answer. That is the 20th century. British, they ruled in the 20th century for around 47 years, exactly 47 years. And in those 47 years, they were not having much time, neither the time, not even the intent, to focus majorly on the social upliftment or the social growth.
Social education,
neither they were having the intent, first of all, and neither they got the time. And because the 20th century...
Not even the finances at that time, they were
absolutely
draining out.
Absolutely, because they were drained a lot with the First and the Second World Wars. And apart from that, intent was also not there, because the most prior thing the British they were having at that time was to fight with the nationalism movement in India. The nationalists, they were the biggest headache for the British. So in the 20th century, this is just the single event, that is CAB. Central Advisory Board of Education, started in 1920. That is what to be marked out. And then it was just in the next 3 years, it was discontinued. But it was the fear of the British in 1935 that when they watched that, yes, there are now nationalist leaders, those who are coming from a location and they are becoming the native heroes. Like, for example, I would like to quote here the Periyar Ramaswamy. With regard to the name Periyar Ramaswamy, though he was from Tamil Nadu, but he is given the title of Vaikom Virar. Vaikom as in Kerala. He was not a Malayali person, he was a Tamilian person. No, sir. He was, though specifically, if not mistaken,
he was born there.
Born there, but yes, specifically Tamilian. Tamil. Okay. So, a Tamilian personality being given the title of Vaikom Virar. How come that happened? When he indulged in the Vaikom Satyagraha, when at that time in Vaikom Satyagraha it happened that the Vaikom Mahadeva temple, obviously we know it very well that how the discrimination, caste-based discrimination was happening inside India, and the lower caste Hindus, specifically Dalits, they were not allowed to enter the temple. And then Periyar Ramaswamy came into the picture as the hero of the Vaikom Satyagraha, and he won the movement as well. Though partial victory was there, but yes, he won. So language became one of the identity. So at that time, when Vaikom Virar, the title was given to Periyar, and now British were like that my divide and rule policy could be in danger, could be in trouble, because of now these type of movements are going on. So in 1935, they re-established the CAB. But yes, 1935 was the time period when British, they got to know that the Second World War is on the doors only. It could be any time, because 1919, it happened with the Treaty of Paris, with the establishment of the League of Nations. What this League of Nations they did, they just imposed all the war indemnity on Germany. So Germany, it was having two great locations that is known as this Ruhr Valley and the Saar Valley. And all of these two locations, they were rich in minerals, and these two locations were for the next 15 years taken by the League of Nations, specifically America and Britain. So now it was the time period 1935, and Hitler, he rose to the power. Like Rare was the name given to Hitler inside the Germany in the German language. And now British, they were aware that Hitler in the Germany, and apart from that America in the West, and Spain in the Europe itself, is going to be the big trouble for them. So now they started preparing themselves for the war, and apart from that, the nationalist movement in India now gained another boost with the rise of Jawaharlal Nehru, Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel, and B.R. Ambedkar as well. So now they thought that it's time for us to have another divide and rule policy, but they didn't got much time, as within the next couple of years, the Second World War started. So to conclude the answer, they had not much, neither the intent, neither the time, but yes, they did it in the first half of the 19th century as well as the second half of the 19th century, but not specifically in the 20th one.
Sir, before coming to my next question, as a nation, during the, from this 20th century, let's say from 1900 to this 1947, what was the way, like you're saying that nationalist uprising was there, the movements that were happening outside of India, they were influencing us. And you have also taken name of few leaders who would have come up by that time, Nehru, Patel, Ambedkarji, Boseji, each and everyone. So what and how was the medium in which India of that time was communicating among itself?
Sir, it was just one language, English.
English.
Yeah.
So basically, whatever our history of fighting with the Britishers is, it has been done in English.
English, absolutely, sir.
And all of a leader, without exception, if I could say, there would be certain exceptions. Most of them, the communication that is happening in English.
Absolutely, sir.
Okay.
Because 19th century and 20th centuries is a time, sir, when education just started in India. The education that is, we were discussing, not the religious one, but the physics, chemistry, maths, biology, all of these things, they just started in India for the common masses. And malnourishment, poverty, and the exploitation by the British, it is not a thing that we need to discuss. Everyone is aware with that, right? So people, they were having not much of communication methods with themselves. The only people who got educated, the only people who got learned, they were some chunk of people or group of people, including the names like Gandhi, Nehru, Jinnah, and so on. So why they became the leaders? One of the thing they become the leaders was they were able to communicate with the British. Means I'm not saying they do not have any
Of
other
course, of course.
potentials, any other capabilities, but yes, the another thing that was the cherry on the top for them was their capability to communicate. So this was the thing, sir.
Now, sir, if I am understanding it properly, or for the curiosity of the layman masses, now on one side you have leaders who are able to communicate in English with the Britishers. You have a nation which is diverse when it comes to languages. So now, what was the connect among those leaders and the people of India or the masses of India?
Sir, it was basically the vernacular magazines as well as the newspapers being published and edited by the local leaders. That was the only way through which people in India in the different parts, they were able to acknowledge that what is going inside Congress, what is going inside the Muslim League, or the even All India Trade Union Congress, or the establishment of the RSS happened, the Vishwa Hindu Parishad was there. So what was happening, these were the organizations, those who were active in one part of the country, but the dissemination of the knowledge, the dissemination of the knowledge actually was done, the information was actually promoted as well as it was distributed through the native or the vernacular languages. And that is why you can understand that the Vernacular Press Act came into being.
Okay. Now let's not go back into the history, because we have come to a very fine background. Like, we have set the context very nicely for audience. Now let's say comes the 1947 year. Now you have a nation where the leaders, they have communicated with the masses in Vernac, and on the British side they had been communicating in English. Now the nation is independent. Nation has got the independence. Now, what is their dilemma? What is their context, or what is their approach after the nation got independence with respect to the language?
Sir, with regard to this, I would like to quote here the first ever education minister who took charge in 1947 and continued till 1960. So, with regard to the communication system, just specifically speaking for education now, not the politics one. With regard to the communication system or the language system in the education, native language was promoted along with English. And talking about the politics now, in the realm of politics, the dissemination of the information, that is the communication between the leaders and the masses and the leaders within themselves, they were just having one medium of communication, that was English. Okay. First thing. Because obviously, if I'm talking about the name K. Kamraj, the one who established Tamil Nadu, Tamil Nadu's education system is one of the most powerful education system of the country. And the credit is to be given to just one name, that is K. Kamraj. And apart from that, when we talk about K. Kamraj being from Tamil Nadu, obviously mother tongue is Tamil. And the second language that Mr. K. Kamraj was able to speak was English only. And same goes with, let's say, Lal Bahadur Shastri or Jawaharlal Nehru. These were the guys who were from, actually, the native was from Uttar Pradesh. So Lal Bahadur Shastri is from UP, Jawaharlal Nehru from UP, though actually from Kashmir, but yes, later became the descendants of Uttar Pradesh only. So the languages they were able to speak was either English or even Hindi. Not even the absolute version of Hindi, but a Hindi with a mixture of Maithili and Bhojpuri, right? So even if you hear the words or the speeches of Lal Bahadur Shastri ji, so you will see the accent even in English and in Hindi. That is, it is towards what today, like the leaders like Lalu Prasad and the Tejasvi Yadav, they speak, that is in Bhojpuri. Okay. So the only medium of communication for the leaders among themselves was English. And apart from that, with the leaders and the masses, their native language and English.
Now, sir, where does this Hindi comes into picture now? Like, the leaders are communicating among themselves, however, whatever they are communicating in, like, whatever kind of English, like, let it be posh English, let it be whatever kind of English they are communicating. Now, from where this Hindi comes into the trouble part?
Sir, before trouble part, I would like to add here, where does this Hindi comes into the picture part?
Yes, that would be even better.
Sir, the first and the foremost thing, that is the Hindi's prominence is, I would like to quote here the rise of Bollywood.
Okay.
It has played a very big role, sir, in promoting Hindi throughout the nation. Not only nation. Like if, for example, people in Afghanistan or people in Middle East, if you ever visit there, you will see that people, though even if they are not able to speak a very clear Hindi, but they are able to understand the whole of Hindi. Reason being, like for example, the name Shah Rukh Khan. Shah Rukh Khan is a very big star in Middle East, and obviously the movies of Shah Rukh Khan, they are based in Hindi language only. Apart from that, when we talk about the other famous Bollywood celebs, so they are also having a good fame or good name inside the countries like Middle East and Central Asia and so on. So Bollywood's rise has provided good boost to the language of Hindi, because of which it has spread not only internationally and for sure domestically as well. Because the Bollywood industry was the first such industry to have good producers, good investors, that means those who were able to invest money. But the other native languages, like for example, if I say Bhojpuri, I was hearing to him, this Manoj Tiwari. So in one of his show, he came and he told that there was a gap of nearly 15 or 18 years from first movie of Bhojpuri to the second movie of Bhojpuri.
Okay.
Nearly about 15 to 18 years, right? So now Bhojpuri industry is gaining prominence. So the very same way it is applicable to the other movie industries, from Tollywood or Collywood or anywhere, that is Telugu industry or the Malayalam industry or the Tamil industry. So at that time, neither there were more prominent figures, those who were acting, neither there were no prominent figures into the direction. And when there is no proper asset, because the directors and the actors, they are the asset, so there was also a big gap of investors as well. But in the northern belt, specifically from Maharashtra region, that is from Deccan towards north, actors were also present, directors were also present, and these were the people, those who were prominently Hindi speaking, and so they were making the movies, the songs and everything in Hindi only. And the medium of entertainment, movies were there only at that time, because there was no social media or anything like that. The songs, they were being played in Hindi. So people in Tamil Nadu, people in Karnataka, Kerala, Andhra Pradesh and everywhere, they were now having no other choice but to watch Hindi movies. And watching those Hindi movies, they were able to understand Hindi. Though not in much good flow of speaking, but yes, they were able to understand. But that doesn't mean just because they are able to understand Hindi, now I will implement the 3-language policy and ask them, since you are aware with the Hindi language, and now Hindi should be there in your state as well. Because this is something which I personally speaking on a very personal
So we'll
note.
talk on this later, like what the opinion. But before this, I would like to know, like, let's suppose Hindi is spreading. Then how did the political leaders, they got this thought of 3-language formula where Hindi becomes a prominent part? How that started happening?
So it started actually in the year 1968.
Okay.
With the national education policy. And it was at that time Indira Gandhi was the Prime Minister. So for the first time, national education policy introduced this 3-language policy in 1968. Okay. And the only reason was the dominance of Hindi speaking people in the Constituent Assembly itself.
Okay.
Because when the constitution got completed and it got implemented on this 26th January 1950, at that time it was stated that nearly 12 or 15 years later, actually, a separate commission will be made under Article 344, Clause 2, Subclause A. There is a mentioning, this is what is mentioned in Constitution, Article 344, Clause 2, Subclause A. That is, the commission will be taking care of elimination of English as an official language and promoting Hindi as an official language.
Okay.
And this was not something which was accepted nationally.
Okay.
This is what we have seen, that P. Sriramalu, he even died after nearly 50 to 60 days of hunger strike for demanding a separate Telugu speaking state for the Telugu speaking people, right? And at that time only, 1960s, Nehru was there as the Prime Minister only, when he gave a speech that we are even trying to implement Hindi as an official language and eliminate English. That time only there was a big public uproar inside the states of Madras, Karnataka, as well as Andhra Pradesh, that no, this can't be happening, as because we just are aware with Hindi language, but we do not speak Hindi, neither it is my identity.
And sir, it would be very interesting point if you can point out, if that's there in your memory or if that's there in your research, that why leaders started promoting Hindi that much. Okay, one thing, like what the undercurrent was spreading via Bollywood, but what made these leaders shift to Hindi? They could have shifted to some other language also.
Yes, sir. It is a very wonderful thing to be in fact discussed as well, because the Congress, which was not just a political party, it was also a party which was struggling for the freedom, was dominated by the names those who were Hindi speaking.
So they thought if they could have Hindi dominance,
Yes.
they could penetrate better
Inside the politics, and they can have their better hold and say throughout the nation. Like, for example, Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel, though a Gujarati personality, but yes, a very good Hindi speaker. Going forward with Motilal Nehru, Jawaharlal Nehru, Veer Savarkar, though from Marathi background, but still a good Hindi speaker. Okay, then we have got Nathuram Godse at that time as well, the one who was giving all the speeches in Hindi only. Then talking about Subhash Chandra Bose or any name, though coming from a specific background of any other different language, but they were prominently speaking Hindi.
So, sir, can I say, like, if doing a deeper analysis, it wasn't just about maintaining the cultural diversity versus national integrity, there were political aspirations and political game in the background context also.
Well, absolutely perfect statement, sir. This
And-
was actually the intention.
And this wasn't unilaterally from, let's say, something happening above the Deccan Plateau, that's either our Hindi belt or the northern belt. People from the down south, when we became a democracy, it ultimately becomes an electoral game. So people down south, they also saw it as an opportunity to capture vote on this issue.
Absolutely.
Could that be correct statement or correct perception if we go about it?
It's absolutely a correct perception, sir. Absolutely.
Okay. Now, sir, whatever has happened, let us suppose that has happened. So, two quick comments. How did that 1968 policy, how did it pan out? Like, what was the end result of it? Where did it go?
Nowhere, sir.
Nowhere.
It was just sometimes in the newspaper. The aspirants of that time would have been reading it inside the newspapers, and then it vanished.
And then what happened for the next 30 years?
Nothing, sir. There was no such thing at that time with regard to the language crisis. As the nation was already involved in much of the deeper troubles, industries were not performing much well. Atomic energy was also there into the main picture. Then globally, we were also being troubled because of lesser exports and heavily relying on the imports. Then assassination of Indira Gandhi happened, the 1984 riots that happened. Then apart from that, India was specifically at that time more focusing over the international realms with regard to the Sri Lankan civil war. And apart from that, the internal crisis of economy was not even solved much. Then 1990s, we have seen an economic slowdown. In fact, slowdown is not the correct word we should take, and it was an economic crackdown basically. So 1991, we had to come up with the new economic policy that is implementing the LPG reforms. So this was the phrase which I will say it was the areas of gap or the era of gap with regard to the demand of language. Though the demand was there, but yes, it was not prominently much into the limelight. As with regard to the Telangana movement, we can see Telangana was a state which was not only created in 2014, but the demand for Telangana was around 80 to 90 years back.
Okay.
And specifically, the reason was, yes, language was one of the reason, as well as the culture came to be another such reason.
And like this could present us a very great insight, like the Andhra Telangana bifurcation that has happened. Even though they had a same language, they still opted for bifurcation. And in fact, like I think there is some issue of Rayalaseema also going on. So it could be trifurcation. So it could be that language only itself is not the ultimate thing which states are aspiring for. Okay, this lets us come to the next segment. If I see whatever we are debating from constitutional point of view, so how much right or wrong, let's say the southern states, their demand, their requirement, and how much is the union government justified if I consider this thing from constitutional point of view?
Well, sir, I do not want to get trolled, but let me be very brutally honest here.
Don't worry, sir. Anyone who is brutal, they get trolled.
Yeah. So, sir, the demand of the southern states is absolutely on valid grounds.
Okay.
Is absolutely valid because, sir, if we go ahead with the exact number of Hindi speaking population in India, so you will get to know that there are more of the population speaking the other languages, that is Tamil, Telugu, Kannada, and so on. Because what we call it as Shuddha Hindi is spoken where? UP, not even whole of UP. Majority, like the eastern part of UP is dominated by Bhojpuri. though a dialect, but yes, it is Bhojpuri. Then we have also got the language of Maithili. Then we have got the Khadi Boli, that is specifically Haryanvi. Then apart from that, we have got the Brij Bhasha. In UP only, see, these are the languages that are still spoken. Then when we talk about the states of Himalayan Uttarakhand, we have got the Kumaoni language there. Kashmir, we have got the Kashmiri language. Delhi, we have got a language that is mixture of Hindi, Punjabi, Haryanvi and Urdu. Then apart from that, Gujarat, when we go, specifically all the people are speaking Gujarati. When we go in Rajasthan, another dialect of Hindi, that is Rajasthani. Specifically, we talk about in the state of Jharkhand. Then Jharkhand, another dialect of Hindi, that is Jharkhandi. Chhattisgarh, another dialect of Hindi, that is Chhattisgarhi. So where is actually the good chunk of Hindi speaking population? Absolute, that Shuddh Hindi is nowhere spoken. So why should I be talking about just the promotion of one single language, that is Hindi? I'm talking about unity in diversity since day one of the independence. And this diversity comes with language. And the language is not just a medium of communication for me. Language is more than communication for me. It is my actual identity, my ethnic, cultural, traditional identity. So I think imposing Hindi, and that too using the government machinery, is something that is not justified. Like, for example, what has happened with the state of Tamil Nadu. It's in news as well.
Understood, sir. Let's come to that. How is then NEP 2020? How much has it been distorted? What it contains, what it actually is, or whatever noise is made out of it, how much of it true? I think that would be a proper segment if we debate on that. NEP 2020.
Well, sir, NEP 2020, I appreciate NEP 2020 for one thing. Firstly, though not part of this topic, but still the masses should be aware that it introduced the computer learning.
Okay.
In the school stages, in the primary level of education. Just the board exams are happening, and the last board exam in CBSE board, I think it was for AI, artificial intelligence, for a high school student. And it's a very wonderful thing that NAP has promoted.
That's all good, all great. I just want you to answer, apart from other thing, the criticism which we're having so far, has NEP answered those points?
Not yet.
So what is the current draft in which NEP is, and what is the controversy around it, which is currently happening?
So the only controversy is just one, that is imposition of 3-language policy. There is no other controversy.
But it's also said that you can have the third language of your choice. Then why this uproar?
So third language of your choice, that is the simple statement, right? The first language is your native language, second language is English, and third language is Hindi mandatorily.
Is it mandatory?
This is not like mandatory thing, but the first thing that they are promoting is Hindi.
So, sir, let's try to understand now whatever we have debated, like the cultural sensitivity, the customs, and each and everything. Now, let's suppose if a nation is trying to have a language of its own, what is wrong in that? And the second point is, like, you will pick up something that is having least resistance. For example, what we are talking, even though what you said that the Hindi speaking segment is lesser than when combined with all other languages. But when you see it other way around, the consumers of Hindi content or the consuming masses that is talking in Hindi, that is way larger. So what I want to say is that, is it not that Hindi is penetrating with something that is called as least resistance? If as a nation we want something of our own, which is not having any influence of outside, and take it as a pride, Hindi can actually do that.
Well, sir, indeed it can do that, no doubt in that. But the point is, it's a gradual process. I cannot just, come over and overnight again I can just demand the masses that now you are bound to read Hindi, speak Hindi, learn Hindi. It's a gradual process, first of all.
Totally get it. Let me be the devil's advocate. What if Hindi is getting absorbed organically among the masses, because we all travel via rail, road, everywhere? It's one thing that people can catch up English, that will help them globally. But one thing that would be noticing, somewhere people from each and every region, they are able to comprehend and talk in Hindi. So why this thing is not taken into cognizance, that this thing, apart from the political resistance, at ground level, it might be happening organically. Why not to take cognizance of this thing?
Well, sir, if the things are happening organically, then no one sees any harm in that. But yes, the word is if. In case it is happening organically. But right now, it is not happening. Like, for example, we discussed about Bollywood and the songs. It happened organically that the people in the southern states, northeastern states, as well as the other parts of the nation, they started understanding Hindi. And that was an organic event. That was an action that was performed organically without any fear or force or any kind of coercion. But right now, what I'm trying to do through the NEP is coercion. It is not organic.
Okay. And if among the certain states I have to talk about, like we were talking about, we do not consider Maharashtra as something belonging from the way southern states function. But still, Maharashtra can take up both things very easily, Hindi and Marathi. Though let us give them benefit of this thing that the script is similar or the words are similar. So that's why let us keep Maharashtra as an exception. But let me come to a very good case study of Andhra, Telangana versus Tamil Nadu. Now, Andhra is such a state, though it is having one of its own classical language, but it picks up Hindi pretty well.
Sir, in that case, when we talk about the state of Maharashtra, or let's say Andhra picks up Hindi pretty well, I think I am not going to second this statement.
Okay.
Because I have been to Andhra, personally speaking, there from the areas starting from Hyderabad to Visakhapatnam and so on. I don't think so Hindi is taken up organically there even presently. Why? Because since the early childhood days, in my education, I have been taught either in English in the schools, and when I'm coming back from school to my home, then I'm either conversing in the Tulu language or either the Telugu language only. Okay. So still people taking Hindi pretty well is a statement that comes only through that organic penetration of Hindi because of events like Bollywood and so on. But still the people, they want, like for example, I'll just quote here a historical event here. This is the chapter when we read about French Revolution and the Napoleon Bonaparte. Napoleon Bonaparte's 3 mistakes. One of the mistakes, because of these 3 mistakes which Napoleon got vanished, one of the mistake was imposing his brother Joseph Bonaparte on the throne of Spain.
Okay.
What happened at that time? Napoleon was having a good control over the Europe. The British, they were now being disturbed because of this Napoleon's expansions. And the power of the French, the power of the Napoleon was getting too much prominence at that time. And one such mistake happened when when Napoleon lost Spain. And why Napoleon lost Spain? Just because the Spanish people revolted against Napoleon, because Napoleon posted his brother Joseph Bonaparte on the French of the Spain. On the throne of the Spain. Now, Joseph Bonaparte, a French-speaking personality who doesn't know Spanish, is ruling the country of Spain. Okay. So people of Spain, they revolted on a very violent note and they thrashed Joseph away out of their house, out of their country actually. So language is that sensitive matter. And when I say in Andhra Pradesh or in any particular location, people take Hindi pretty well, okay, that's correct. But even if they do take it pretty well, then why should I impose them? It's time for you to now speak Hindi only because of the national education policy. So I do not second this statement.
Now, sir, here we come to the very interesting context of Tamil Nadu, recent context of Tamil Nadu. Now, the central government, as proclaimed by the state government, that under Samagra Shiksha, this thing, they have some confiscated or not releasing the funds. That is first thing. So I want you to know that Tamil Nadu as a state, because of things that could be justified or not justified, is losing something, a budget for the education allocation. That's the first thing. And second part, I want to talk about the central government. What would be the way forward in this deadlock?
Okay, sir. So just let me take the safe harbor here. First of all, sir, the present government, the incumbent government, is performing, no doubt, on a very wonderful note when it comes to these having the international recognition, and apart from that, economy is also not that bad as said by many of the YouTubers, I will say. And yes, there are issues. Yes, there are tensions and troubles in many facets. But yes, comparatively, the government is performing good. Comparatively good. Not very good, but yes, comparatively is good enough.
And this is as per your own understanding.
Yeah, this is as per my own understanding. That is why I took the word, let me be on the safe harbor side. So now talking.
And people have right to dissent.
Yeah, sure.
Hmm.
So means.
And agree also.
Yeah, for sure, sir. Means like the only thing I fear about is being trolled. So I have to play on a very balanced.
That's part and parcel of life. Yeah. Okay.
So coming to the point here, that is with regard to the NEP and Samagra Shiksha Abhiyan, what is happening? The news what we have read, if I'm not wrong with the figures, 2,152 crore rupees of the fund has been stopped by the government for Tamil Nadu for the sake of implementation of the Samagra Shiksha Abhiyan. Samagra Shiksha Abhiyan, if people with regard to the UPSC CSE context, Samagra Shiksha Abhiyan was launched in 2018, and before 2018 there were three different schemes running. That is, the first one was the Sarva Shiksha Abhiyan, the other one was the Rashtriya Shiksha Abhiyan, and the third one was the Teacher Education Policy. So all of these three things, these three schemes actually basically were merged all together, and Samagra Shiksha Abhiyan was created. And now this Samagra Shiksha Abhiyan is now given another element, that is once again the three language policy through the NEP, National Education Policy, for which Tamil Nadu, being one of the most orthodox states with regard to the language and culture, and no harm in being orthodox there, has denied implementation of the NEP, and for which the government has very on a not good note has used its machinery to stop the disbursements of the funds. So government shouldn't have taken this action, as what the parliamentary panel has also stated in the recent Lok Sabha proceedings going on. And what the government could do right now here, see, if they step back, right now they are on a very dangerous platform. If they proceed, then also they are subject to criticism. And if they step back, then it will represent the weakness of the government. So if I was the government, or if I have to advise to the government, in case the government is listening, then I will just say that there should be some leniency given to the implementation of NEP, as with regard to the scheme that we must mention here as well, PM Shri. SHRI, that is Schools for Rising India. So this is where something near about 14,500 of the central as well as state as well as the UT schools, they were to be upgraded through the scheme. And now you are actually trying to disturb the environment of education in India when you are just stopping the allocation of funds. So government need to do here is the first and the foremost thing, just provide the some leniency and some freedom for the states to choose the third language in case they want to. And yes, you should keep here fourth language as Hindi, as you can provide this thing that Hindi is a language spoken by a good or a majority chunk of masses, or let's say it is easily acceptable by the majority of the masses. So that is what we can do.
I think that could be a very great way forward, keeping Hindi as the fourth option. Let it be picked up by the masses organically, as we are talking about. If Hindi passes the test, if there is more popularity of Hindi, it will be very much self-evident. So this allegations of imposing, they would just vaporize.
Absolutely.
Sir, before we end, I have two more questions to ask you. One, is there any better examples or some global practices that we can learn from?
Well, sir, to be very honest, I would like here quote two countries. The first such country is Japan, and another such country will be China. So talking about the growth and development of both of these nations, it is like there is no word for me right now to represent. Like by 1945, Japan was vanished from the world map. But by 1962 or 63 something, Japan was the first country to run the model of the bullet train. So you can understand, in less than 2 decades, Japan stood back on its own feet without any external or international support. So what is happening in Japan? In Japan, the Japanese language is the primary language of education, communication, and everything. But there is a mandatory teaching and understanding and reading of English language at all the levels of education.
Okay.
Though there are many other languages as well spoken in Japan, but still they have promoted their native language, that is Japanese. So because of which their cultural unity was never kept in question. You will see that the people they're fighting in India, north, south, northeast versus northwest versus this and that. The people are fighting in Europe. Their people are fighting in America or these Latin American nations with regard to the language, culture, language identity, and so on. But you will never find a single case happening in Japan with regard to the cultural identity. So the country of Japan, it has made its stance very clear that yes, there is only two languages since day one of the New World Order. That is Japanese and English. And in case you are having another third language as your native language, no harm in that. You go ahead, you proceed. But yes, the language will be Japanese and English only. And the English also, they kept it just for the sake of communication with the global world. And so was followed by China. Chinese as well as the Mandarin language, that is their prominence in there. So three language policies are specifically working in China. That is Chinese, Mandarin, and English. And a surprising fact that a majority of the Chinese population is Mandarin speaking rather than Chinese speaking. So why not there are issues in China? Why not there are issues in Japan? Why these are the issues only in India? Why? Because the word you take, that is the word you took before, that is the organic penetration. So the organic penetration of Mandarin has been done, organic penetration of Japanese has also been done, and the organic penetration of English has been done as well. Nothing was imposed, but it was a proper policy, a proper protocols were created, and the administrative machinery was also very much active, and invigorously was represented by their side, and so they performed the task exceptionally well. The only problem in India was with regard to, firstly, yes, the dirty politics thing, as the thing we were mentioning in the beginning of the session, that using Hindi was because of gaining some political mileage rather than having the another political aspects.
Now, sir, you took names of two languages, Japanese and Mandarin. This reminds me one of our very own language, Sanskrit. Like among all these education policies and each and everything that happens, one thing that is slowly and certainly there is Sanskrit, especially in the northern belt. So my question is in two contexts. One, what Japanese people and what Chinese they have been able to do with the language, that is Japanese and Mandarin that you're talking about. Can we do it with Sanskrit? Given the one-time vision which Mr. Ambedkar also had, like let us move the whole nation to altogether a newer language like Sanskrit. Not like Sanskrit, in fact, it was Sanskrit. Can we do that? And second is that with all the efforts that goes behind in the preserving Sanskrit, will we able to be attain a national unity on the bedrocks of Sanskrit language?
Well, sir, in bolds and capitals, I would like to answer no and oh.
No.
Reason being, sir, the people of Japan, people of China, or any other country, they have been very much closely associated with their indigenous culture. But in India, things have been different since day one. We have lost our culture. We have lost the actual genesis, the roots of our traditions. In India, what we are wearing right now, this jeans, shirts, trousers, and so on, this is not even Indian. What the Indian attire is, that dhoti, kurta, kurta pajama, the sari, suit, and so on. But these are the things now which we use occasionally. So when we have lost even the traditional attires, the traditional food, the traditional actual festival celebration, and so on, then how am I going to ask my children or the teenagers, those who are inside the school and college, suddenly that there will be a Sanskrit language? As you can see, means like I do not want to troll anyone or speak anything bad against any single individual, but I have seen many, means like I really thank these people, and I'm really keen to meet if any one of them, that these video bloggers, what we call them as vloggers, they used to just go roam over the streets and they used to ask some basic questions of mathematics, science, or even language, or even the culture and tradition of our country from the Indian school going students and the college going students as well. And they do have literally no answer. They blabber anything. So the kids are not at fault there. It's not the fault of their kids. It's the fault of the environment that we have created.
And also the generation that has raised them.
Yes,
That
the
is
generation
us.
that has raised them, that is us. So it is our fault. Now, when since the beginning only, I coming from a background of a particular set of customs and traditions, I don't know anything about my customs. I don't know anything about my traditions. So how can I suddenly ask my kid that, beta, now you are going to study Sanskrit? Means like, even if he says yes, then also it will be a trouble for me only. Because then tomorrow he will come to me and ask a question in Sanskrit or try to communicate with me in Sanskrit, then I will have to deny. So that will be the biggest level of hypocrisy.
So fine, sir. I think like we have a very holistic debate about this three language formula, three language row. Any final thing from your side that you like to communicate to our audiences?
Well, yes, sir. Thank you so much for the conclusive statement here. And the only thing that I would like to communicate to my dear viewers, that is, please refrain from any such type of debate that is based on region, north versus south, this versus that, Tamil versus Telugu, Bengali versus Marathi, or something like that. This is having literally no existence. And this is only hampering and tampering your growth and development, your individual growth and development. So refrain from it. Try to see India as united and integrated India. Try to see what the national freedom heritage has given us. Try to see what your rich culture has given you. Rich culture, whatever culture you come from. You come from the northeastern area, you come from the Himalayans, you come from the Dravidian, or you come from the North Indian side, doesn't matter. The culture of India is most unique, most impactful, and yes, the statements that what we are trying to represent throughout the globe these days, that is being Vishwaguru or Vishwamitra. Once upon a time, yes, India was a Vishwaguru. Starting from the medicinal research, that is the plastic surgery and so on, going forward with the scientific research and everything. Yes, we lost it in between just because we discarded ourselves from our roots and tradition. So stop fighting with regard to the language, customs, traditions, and so on. Just be united Indians. That's it. Thank you, everyone.
And adding on to what Sarah said, language is a medium for communication, not for fighting. Whatever issues we have, as Sir said, one India, united India, will figure out the way forward in a better way, in a nicer way. And when it comes to education, I think the best policy would be to give the discernment to each and every state what they would like to do. And of course, and ultimately, it's the honors of each and every one of us to preserve each and every cultural tradition of ours, each and every dialectic of ours. And we should be grateful that we are having so many languages and dialects with us. And this should make us proud rather than making us angry with each other. So dear friends, use language as a medium for communication. Talk among yourself, exchange views, exchange ideas. That is what language is for. And we just hope that this podcast would have helped you to understand this three language row better. And also you would have got a great insight, great depth about various other issues also. So dear friends, thank you, sir, for joining us. And dear friends, I'll see you again next time. Till then, take care. Thank you.